Howdy, hello everyone. Today we're going to try out some AI tools. I have a small application which is published on the App Store. It's called CarChum and it's a vehicle management application. Like you can add a bunch of vehicles to this application by, I don't know, vehicle plate, make, we can say here for focus. You can choose a color for those vehicles, like I'm choosing this blue. And for each vehicle, you can add an infinite number of vehicle fields. Like a vehicle field is like something you like to customize and keep track for your vehicles, like a fuel, which has the value gas, for example. So it's like a property of your vehicle. You can also have a few events here, like a list of events, description like vehicle, I don't know, change tires, and you can like select your vehicles. If you have multiple, you can select a date when this event will occur and the recurrence every and here you'll have a list of events with like colored in different ways. All right, so here I have a few screenshots with the application screens. You see here some a list of expenses like repairment, and you can set categories for those expenses. Also, you have a small fuel calculator in the settings. A parking place where you can put a pin, drop a pin, and then you'll have a parking spot for your machine so you don't forget if you leave the car. And yeah, a bunch of details we already shown that. Okay, and imagine that, and I forgot to mention, like the car is localized in multiple languages. I have, I think, 6 languages here. And for each language, think about like how many screenshots we need to publish on the App Store. Like if you want to publish an application on the App Store, you need to put screenshots for it. You can leave them in English or a default language, but still, I think it would be best to gain more users having those screenshots in localized way. And here I'm having the old screenshots. But as I progress with the application and I build more and change some of the stuff there, imagine like the new liquid glass part with iOS 26, I will have to regenerate those screenshots. And instead of going through each screen manually, change the language of the simulator, run the application, go and add those vehicles in a specific language. For example, maybe I would like to create vehicles which are specific to France, to French people, and use the vehicles that are more common in that country rather than using others from US, for example. So it will take me a lot of time to do this manually. So why not try AI tools and use Claude Code to build a way to place screenshots in the App Store? And we can start this by having a UI test that like walks through the application, does those manual steps for me, and at the same time captures screenshots. And we can do that like running multiple instances of the simulator, each one having its own dedicated language, and we can like run in parallel that UI test and capture screenshots through the application. How cool would it be? So let's start cracking. So first thing first, I started to build the requirements for the use case for the UI test. I went to Google AI Studio and I started simple with like I'd like to build specifications for an iOS app to create UI test. And here I got a template. I see here the 2023. It's like an old model, I guess. And I iterated to create those specifications. I provided a few screenshots of the application, the ones that I was focused on creating the UI test. And I mentioned here, I like to build UI tests for an existing iOS app called CarChum. This UI test should help me create screenshots for App Store. The app is fairly simple. I can upload the existing screens, and I mentioned here what are the screens. And I provided a JSON mock for that part with like the vehicles, having the plate, make, model, color. For me, it's important to get that data localized. Like if I'm a French user, then I would expect like cars that are more specific to my region, like Renault, Clio, and so on. And if I'm in Romania, I would expect like Dacia and Duster, and yeah. And these screenshots should be posted in the App Store, which are like tied with the localization, right? And finally, after like iterating a few times over the specifications, I could build a guide, which I exported as a markdown. You see here like product requirements document, CarChum localized UI test suite to define a suite of UI tests for the CarChum app using the native Xe UI test. I explicitly asked to not use Fastlane. On the first iteration of building those specifications with Google AI Studio, it directly jumped to Fastlane, and I don't want that. I just want to try something native. I think it's pretty powerful, and we can take screenshots natively without any kind of problem, or installing CLI tools. Fastlane is great. Don't get me wrong here. All right, core technical strategy, it's like describing the framework's targets. I also provide a small example on how can we create a snapshot. It basically uses the XCUI screen. It then creates an XCT attachment, and then it creates the name. It adds a name, a lifetime. I selected keep always because after the UI tests are being run, I would prefer the attachments to live there and save them after. I gave a few notes about the accessibility identifiers. I created a Swift package manager package, a Swift package, an SPM that holds the accessibility identifiers. It essentially has a couple of enums which I need to add some identifiers to the UI elements. And those UI elements would be accessible in the UI test target, which doesn't know the code that you have in the main application. The app is simple, as I mentioned. I don't have crazy frameworks, modules, or so on. It's a simple app. That's it. The architecture is pretty simple. I'm using Swift UI for the UI part, and I'm using Swift data for the local storage. And some other things like test setup functions I mentioned here, like the launch environments, data model specifications, and here I giving some notes about the models, the JSON, the vehicles JSON. Now the UI test cases are more for a PM point of view, product management and the business analyst could write them. Given the app is launched, here it's more technical, but I think we can get rid of this. Wait for the vehicle list view to appear. The list is populated with the vehicles from this JSON, and then capture the screenshot. Add new vehicle screen. Tap the vehicles add button, and here is the identifier. Fill the text field using data for a new vehicle, and so on. After creating the requirements, now I can go to ClaudeCode and say build the UI tests for me using specs. And here I can place the specs and hit that. And ClaudeCode will then proceed when doing some to-dos, examine the existing UI test structure and data files, check existing JSON data. I already created a few files for it, so help it out. But I will leave it for him to play around and generate the code for me. Right, so after the project has been generated, I did a few fixes. I could see some problems. I got a lot of waiting periods with delays and expectations being waited for no reason. But the overall results were quite nice. One important thing was that I didn't have a test plan, so I created one test plan for running the UI test because I need the test plan to be run in multiple configurations. I have all the languages here. The application is being localized in English, French, Romanian, German, and the other two. What I changed was this part with the application language and application region. I selected Romanian for Romania region, France, and so on. And I have just one test to be executed. If you go to tests, I have this one test add vehicles. And another aspect was that I had to do the main actor and implement the sendable protocol. The models, the LLM models did not generate new Swift syntax code and so on. But anyways, the results are quite good. I performed some small refactoring as I mentioned. I have one method here with a Boolean flag should take screenshots, which is true or false. Essentially, if I don't want to run the test and take screenshots, then this one is being passed. All right, so the test, I will walk you just through this method. The code will be open source, so if you want to dig more into the details, please go into the repository and check there. Well, first thing, when I launch the test, it will check if the tar bar exists, then it will navigate to the first tab. Let me show you. Here, navigate to the first tab, Then I need to add a few vehicles here. I'll do 1, 2, 3. Right, so as part of the add vehicles, it will load the JSON file, this one with the vehicles, based on the local, like English, French, Italian, and so on. It will fetch the mock data for that, and it will add those vehicles in the UI. So let's try them in Xcode 26. In Xcode 26 beta 3. And let's go here to the vehicle UI tests and let's put here true. And I'm curious about the course, how many simulators are being run. Let's go here. I think it was testing on Mac, 16 processes, testing on simulator 6. All right, so I have the maximum parallelization option there. Succeeded. Let's check those screenshots. All right, so I see like the screenshots are being taken correctly. I see the new button bar, the tab bar looking great. Also some glass buttons here. Again, I still need to do some work here to make it fully compatible with iOS 26, but not that much work because I'm using the native elements. Okay, cool. Thank you a lot for joining. Bye.